Hey guys, so today I will be sharing with you my reading story. I was tagged to do this by both Patricia and Sierra, whose lovely channels I will link down below, so go check those out. Go do that soon, yes. And pretty much for this tag, all I'm going to be telling you guys is how I got to be the avid, crazy, fangirling bookworm that I am today. Yeah. So when I was younger, I pretty much always remember there just being books in my life, whether I was reading them or I was being read to. There were always books. One of my favorite memories is of my mom reading Henry and Mudge books to me, which are pretty much just these cute little children's stories about this boy and his dog, and they just get into all these shenanigans. And after we would finish a book, my mom would always pretend to be Mudge the dog and I would be the kid, and it would just be really kind of adorable. Sorry if you're watching this, Mom, and I totally just embarrassed you on the internet. Love ya. But of course, there comes a time when you just get too old to have people reading to you all the time. So when I first started reading on my own, I really remember just getting really into the Magic Tree House series, which you guys have to know what I'm talking about, right? And I think it was the first time I realized that books could actually take you places. I could be just chilling in my room, reading casually, not really doing anything. But if I was reading a Magic Tree House book, I felt like I could be transported anywhere. These kids would go to the medieval time period and they'd go on the Titanic and they'd go visit the dinosaurs, and I felt like I was with them. And it was just so creative and fun. And I think those books really got me into fantasy and fiction and just supernatural stories, so they pretty much started it all. When I grew up and I went on to around 4th or 5th grade or so, I remember a program called DEAR being just a really big part of my school day. For those of you who didn't have a DEAR program, it just stands for Drop Everything and Read. It's pretty clever, right? So pretty much if it was DEAR time in school, you literally dropped everything, you picked up a book and you just read. And you just didn't stop. And this was the time I got into bigger chapter books like the Goosebumps series. The Goosebumps series, it just defined my elementary school experience. Everybody was into them, so of course I got into them, and I love them because they were just so weird and strange and different, and yeah. And I remember one time in 4th grade when we were all having reading time, I had just finished a Goosebump book, and I just put it down and I turned to the person sitting next to me and I started having a book club discussion. I was like, oh, the characters were great and the ending was incredible, and oh my god, the plot and the themes and blah 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 blah. And my teacher was always yelling at me Jacqueline, shh, it's reading time. But I just wanted to talk about books all the time at such a young age. And so from there, I just kind of kept reading. In middle school, I remember really getting into the Artemis Fowl series, which they just changed my life. A lot of people now will say when they grew up, Harry Potter was their series that got them into reading, or the Percy Jackson books. My books were the Artemis Fowl books. I just love them. And I still love them, and I think they just really motivated me to keep reading these fantasy, fiction, crazy made-up creative stories. And then I remember in 8th grade running into a few problems. We always had summer reading in my school, which pretty much just meant every summer you had to read books, and then at the beginning of the new school year you had to pass in a completed list of all the books you had read that summer. And I just remember going into 8th grade and being so proud because I passed in a list with 20 books, and I had read the Cheetah Girl series and all these fun, young adult books, and I was just so proud of it. And I got really discouraged when other kids were passing in lists with only 3 books, but they read the Da Vinci Code. And so I started thinking, am I a slow reader? Am I not really up to par with everybody else? Am I supposed to be reading these books? What is wrong with me? So I remember from then on just being kind of a little discouraged to read the books that I liked. And I remember that kind of following me in high school. I just kind of read the books that were assigned to me. I don't really remember doing a lot of outside reading or fun reading or just reading for me. I just kind of read my homework assignments. And that pretty much followed me all throughout high school until I got to college, where I met other people who like to read. And I was like, oh my god, they exist. I'm not the only one. And they read young adult books. They don't always read adult books. And just, there are people out there who like to read like me. And then I remember a bunch of girls in my dorm recommending that I read the Hunger Games series. So I was like, why not? I have nothing to lose. So over winter break, I read the entire series in like 4 days. And just like that, I was back into reading. I read whatever I wanted. I read all these YA books. I decided that I was back. And then that summer, I read a bunch of books and I joined BookTube, and here I am. So I've definitely had a lot of people in my life encourage me to read, and I've definitely been discouraged about what I've read before. And it just happens, but I always pull through. And so I guess the moral of the story is just read. Read whatever you want, just whenever you want and however you want. So in the description box down below, I'm going to leave the names of some lovely booktubers I would like to do this tag. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you soon. Bye!